I think we all know that the main thing that the United States is missing these days is bounty hunters running wild, checking everyone's papers. But don't you worry, it could be coming soon because there's legislation in Mississippi. It's got both Republican lawmakers as well as some of their district attorneys pushing it. And so they want to take bounty hunters and they want to set up a system where they will pay them to track down immigrants that will then be deported. It's not enough that the cops are going to be doing it and DHS is going to be doing it and ICE is doing it and Border Patrol and we're going to be sending the National Guard and the troops. We also need to deputize dog. We need to get dog out in these streets. So DeSoto County District Attorney Matthew Barton announced his support for House Bill 1484, authored by State Representative Justin Keene, which would create the Illegal Alien Certified Bounty Hunter Program, which sounds like something I would write in a first draft of a dystopia. And then I'd stop and think, a bit on the nose, I'm gonna dial it back a bit. I don't want my satire to bludgeon someone so much they go unconscious, but no, that's what they're going with. And so they've suggested offering a $1,000 reward to registered bounty hunters for each successful deportation they help facilitate, which would be funded by the General Assembly and administered by the state treasurer. And that's all well and good. I have a follow-up question though. So you pay them $1,000 when they correctly track someone down that probably in most cases wasn't doing anything wrong and then they get deported. Do you dock them when they just harass or possibly assault or illegally detain someone who turns out was here legally? Because you've set up this massive financial incentive for them to just go out and start getting in people's business. And hey, maybe one of them someday ends up to be an undocumented migrant and then we ship them out. But along the way, like, this isn't their job. They don't know about those people. They don't know who's undocumented. And which sort of bounty hunters do you think are gonna leap at the chance to do this? Which sort of bounty hunters do you think are gonna travel down to Mississippi to get some of this action? State certification and payment for harassing people for speaking Spanish or wearing clothes you don't like or whatever. Like, I don't think it's much of a leap, JR, to assume that that's where this is going. But what do you think? It's more in your neck of the woods.
Completely the idea. That's the point of this whole thing. So you employ folks who have been, have that same like-minded process of, there's a certain kind of person, and this goes beyond, I remember in New York there was the stop and frisk program. Wherever you deem to be a criminal based off of your thought of what a criminal looks like, and we know what this administration has called criminal since the very beginning when he went down the escalator. The folks that are in agreement with the way he thinks will employ their biases, their prejudices, and their bigotry to go after certain kinds of folks. There's plenty of people who are undocumented here who don't look like what these folks think an undocumented person looks like. But those will be the ones that they go after. By the way, again, is a constant repetition of what has happened in our history. It's repeating itself from slave catchers, because when those laws were put into place to make sure that any bounty hunters can go off and catch, they have to be employed by the government to go after folks that they deem illegally free, then they can bring them back to their ownership group. So again, what does this make America great again? Harken back to? Which kind of policies are we repeating? Which kinds of things are we now saying and deeming certain people to be? Again, there's a reason why the Ron DeSantis's and every other one of these Republican candidates for president wanted to hush about our American history, some of the worst things that we did, the policies that we employed to protect these policies of bringing in people to make sure that they're arrested, detained for being lesser than a certain kind of American, a real American, you might say. There's channels called Real American Voice.
100%.
It's indoctrinated throughout everything that we see and hear, but it's employing the exact same policies that we've had in the past. The types of things that we, I guess in some circles would say, was our dark past. But light is being shined back on it. In fact, in a positive light for many of these other folks. So be prepared for the same. If you wonder what you'd have done in previous times, we're living in them. So maybe start.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, and by the way, this is, if I was a conservative, I would say this is just DEI for racists. That's all it is. Hey, we want to get a good job for you. If you want to try to hunt some people down, that'll be fun. And so we don't have time to go into full detail, but in Miami, a guy says that his wife was snatched in one of several Florida ICE raids. She's from Venezuela, so I guess she's not a real person, I suppose, in Florida. They've been married 11 years. She's in the middle of getting her green card. What is she? Why is it bad that she's in America? Why does that hurt our country? Why are we weaker? Because he got to be with his wife. They've been in a committed relationship for more than a decade. It was her. She was snatched up. Also, 2 construction workers. Screw them for building housing. We clearly don't need that in America. So this is all great for Florida. This is definitely making Florida stronger. Also, the Navajo Nation has raised the alarm over reports of indigenous people being questioned and detained during immigration sweeps. Oh my God, Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, they're just gonna be horrified that this happened when they found, oh my God, we never expected we would cross this sort of line. And when you take all these stories, what's happening with the Navajo and the vet that got detained and had his military papers questioned last week, and the guy who lost his wife, and the bounty hunters in Mississippi, and they're going as far as Chicago, or at least that's the fear. And now we've deputized people to tell ICE, hey, I heard someone say "Que paso?" So you got to get over here. You got to start rounding people up. I just want to say to the audience, I apologize for all the fear mongering I did during the last election. I was so off base. I used words like fascist and authoritarian. I talked about people's dark and even racist impulses. And sometimes we go too far in this industry, JR. So I'm apologizing. I think it's time for you to apologize too.
Well, this is the thing, your last thought. This country is chocked full of weapons and guns. If you start questioning Americans and undocumented folks that don't want to get, as this happened in this case with this man's wife, snatched up, fights are going to happen. Gunfire will be exchanged. Bounty hunters will be shot in the face. Let's keep it real. There's going to be fights in the streets. It's going to get more and more violent. And whoever this rogue bigoted government now starts to attack, we'll find who they decide to back up, and it's gonna get worse. People aren't just gonna go along with this, especially as you said, veterans, Americans, citizens. They're not gonna take just getting thrown to the side because you said, well, I deem your papers to not be valid, or you don't have them because, again, it's not a requirement to walk around carrying papers in this country. One more time, let's think about what's happened in our past and what this looks like, and if you're willing to be for it or against it. It's gonna get ugly, man.
Yeah, and look, I know that we're gonna close with this. I know there's some people are super excited about all this chaos. I'm sure all the independent right-wing media paid by billionaires are super excited about this. And Stephen Miller's never been happier because every day he's like, there's a couple less people I'm gonna be terrified are gonna sleep with my wife. But yeah, for most people, we don't like this. I'm not talking about people like me or like you. Regular people hated this chaos last time around. They didn't like it. It was incredibly unpopular because most people think of themselves as not being evil. They don't want to be the villain in the story. And I understand that like 20 to 31% of the country actively does, but that's not enough. And so, sure, you're gonna get your chaos and you're gonna spread a whole bunch of terror all over the place. And but I don't think that's gonna help you politically in the long run. So, you've caught the card that you were chasing. We'll see if you actually like what's inside of it. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.